The Haunting of Sharon Tate was written and directed by Daniel Farrands and stars Hilary Duff as Sharon Tate and tells the quote-unquote inspired by true events story of Sharon Tate, who's pregnant with director Roman Polanski's baby in 1969, and her and some friends are attacked by Charles Manson's cult buddies. As most people know, this was a true life story. Sharon Tate was murdered and Charles Manson and his cult was responsible. This film, however, takes a supernatural look at things and has Sharon Tate plagued with visions, nightmares, a lot of nightmares. Look, if this is not the worst movie of 2019, we are cursed. As a people, we are done. We're no longer worthy of this planet. The Haunting of Sharon Tate represents the absolute worst that horror has to offer. This is bottom-of-the-barrel entertainment, a film based off of something that really happened to exploit a tragedy. We've seen that before in horror. There's tons of Amityville movies, for instance. I mean, this is something that's not entirely uncommon. What's so weird about the film is how gross it feels. It's even a little bit repulsive, because it takes something that happened and tries to give it like this odd supernatural twist to it, and it has very little to add to the actual event. It's this really stretched out film that feels like it should have been a 20-minute short film, like a concept or an idea, like a pitch to a studio. But they stretch this motherfucker out to 90 minutes by having the most elongated scenes of Sharon Tate just walking around a pool, lounging around a pool, walking through Hollywood Hills, talking about how she feels weird or uneasy, having her friends say, "Oh, you're just silly, and what are you doing? There's random people delivering packages to us that say they're from somebody named Charlie, and we're getting weird tape recordings, but we're not doing anything or calling the police." Which leads me to the dialogue for The Haunting of Sharon Tate. It's not even first draft. I mean it. It is like someone scribbled it out really fast and just said, that's good enough. There's all these pseudo-intellectual scenes where they talk about fate and death that build to nothing. You can tell there were reshoots, at least it feels like it was. Like they added this scene where Sharon Tate is being interviewed, it's black and white, and there's narration and voiceover because of this that sometimes appears in the movie based off of that interview, and it just feels like an attempt to elongate things. There are weird parts where they include actual footage of Roman Polanski and Sharon Tate and actual cult members being interviewed, almost like it's a documentary all of a sudden. There's no part in the film that sets that up. It's not an earned edit, because we're seeing Hilary Duff portray Sharon Tate. We're not seeing the real-life Sharon Tate. But throughout the film, we randomly will see stock footage of Sharon Tate. It's atrocious. I mentioned that she has a lot of nightmares. There are so many dream sequences in the film where something scary happens and she wakes up in bed crying. This happens multiple times. It was annoying the first time. It was annoying the second time. This has been the most annoying film cliche and trope forever. For decades. Literally decades. Okay? Why is this in a movie still? Constantly. It's like they could tell they had nothing to do. They were trying to follow that rule of 10, I think, where with a horror film, every 10 pages, something scary should happen, or something interesting, or something investing. So since we just have people in a house and they're kind of lounging around for 90 minutes, I guess we'll just have her have a lot of nightmares about murder and death, because that makes sense, right? But there really is no excuse for this dialogue. One of the bad guys actually looks at somebody and goes, "Well, well, well." Might as well have just, sprouted a giant mustache instantaneously. I mean, there's a scene where they're talking about fate, which is, as far as this movie is concerned, the one theme that they ran with was, can you control your fate? And this guy talks to Sharon Tate, and he's like, I guess in movie speak, it's like we can rewrite our own scripts. I laughed so hard. It was great. I also said to myself, so the writer knows you can rewrite your scripts. Like, he knows that's a thing you can do. Now I want to get something out of the way that I don't really like to do, and that's harp on actors. I know how hard it is to work on a film, especially from an actor perspective. It's all on you, you know? And Hilary Duff, she's not very good in the movie. To be honest, and to her defense, she has nothing to work with. She is crying or having a nightmare for like 90 minutes, and that's it. There's very little to her character on the page, and to be completely honest, she's actually a little bit better than the script warrants. But many people will point her out as the worst part of this film because it's easy to point out the celebrity, especially if they come from like a Disney Channel background like she does, and say, well, she's the reason this movie sucks. She's not. It's the script and the director, because he's doing both of those things. Really, though, all of the acting is pretty mediocre. The film has not one single strong suit at all. Let's talk about that director for a second. In regards to directing, he's well known for some really good documentaries that explore horror films like Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, Scream, The Inside Story, or Crystal Lake Memories, The Complete History of Friday the 13th. But in 2018, he had his narrative feature film debut with The Amityville Murders, another film about just that. He wrote and directed that as well. I didn't see it. I didn't hear it was very good, but I didn't watch it. Now he's got The Haunting of Sharon Tate, another film that explores a real-life event, so I became curious about what he might be working on next. According to his IMDb, his next project is The Murder of Nicole Brown Simpson. It's listed as a thriller, and it's in post-production. He's already shot it. Yet another film about a real-life tragedy exploring the murder of someone. I mean, he's just cranking them out at this point. And the fact that he comes from a documentary background does make me feel like that's why he inserted real imagery of Sharon Tate throughout this film, like he was used to just cutting in that type of stuff, even though it doesn't make any sense. But just the fact that that will be the third film in a row, 2018, 2019, and the third one's already done, and they're all about real-life murders, it just makes me feel gross. Like, that's just create your own story, man. Like, stop looking at the news. Just make up your own original story if you really want to make horror. Don't just look at real life tragedies and try to exploit them. And you don't want to be known for that either. If he makes a third film like that, that's going to be his thing. Now let's talk about the ending. No spoilers if you really want to see this movie for some reason. And of course, if you know the real life story, you probably have an idea of what's going to happen. But the film tries to portray it in an interesting way, I guess I'll say that. And my mouth was dropped for like 10 straight minutes. And in the worst way. I got chills when the end credits started. Because it was so atrocious. There's like 4 minutes of slow motion. And you can tell that they shot it without using the proper frame rate. And so the slow motion looks choppy. It looks like something I did when I was like 15 years old with my shitty mini DV camcorder that my mom gave me when I was a kid. I'm not exaggerating. This is genuinely one of the worst horror films I've seen in years. If you want to get together with some friends and drink a little bit, that could be really fun. I'm going to give The Haunting of Sharon Tate an F. Like I said, if this is not the worst film released this year, we are in for some shit. Like, we don't deserve to survive as a people if this is not the worst film released in 2019. Well, guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmannized.